Lesson 11.5, volume of a pyramid and a cone. Let's look at the equation of the volume of a pyramid. Volume of a pyramid is going to be 1/3 of the area of the base times the height. So remember when we did volume of a rectangular prism, it was area of the base times the height. Well, in a pyramid, it is 1/3 of that value. Now this h is the height, is the true height, which means it goes from the tallest point perpendicular to the base in the center of it. Now remember, the slant height was the height that goes from the side of the base to the vertex. So make sure you know which one you have, because sometimes they may give you one and then you may be looking for the other. So that's called the true height, is what we're using in this. So let's look at example 1 using our equation. So find the volume of the given pyramid. So volume, once again, is 1/3 area of the base times the true height. So we need to identify the area of the base and the true height. Area of the base is a square because we have 15 and 15. So we get 15 squared is the area of the base, which is 225 units. Now, the true height here is given to us because it's perpendicular to the base here at the center. So the true height is 10. So we're going to take our volume, 1/3, 225 times 10. So if you look at this, you can also take 225 times 10 divided by 3. And the first thing we do is want to see, does 3 go into either of these numbers? We know it doesn't go into 10, but if you add up 2 plus 2, you get 4. 4 plus 5 is 9. 3 does go into 9 evenly, so 3 does go into 225 evenly. So you can simplify this number by seeing how many times it goes in, or you can just multiply it out. So if you multiply 225 times 10, we're just going to add that 0, and now we're going to divide by 3. That's the same thing as multiplying by 1/3, is dividing by 3. So now, see how many times that 3 goes into 2,250, and the volume is going to end up being 750 cubic units. So this is units cubed. Volume is always cubic units. So let's look at the next one. So now we have a triangular pyramid, and we have it's a right triangle on here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to write down our equation. So volume is going to be 1/3 area of the base times the true height. So we need to identify our area base and our true height. So this line right here is 8. That is pointing to our true height. In the area of the base, we have a right triangle, which means the 2 legs of our right triangle, not the hypotenuse here if you're looking down on top of it. We've got 5, 12, and 13. 5 and 12 are our 2 legs, so we multiply those together. So 5 times 12. And then once we get this number, we are going to take half of it, because the area of the base is 1/2 base times height. So 12 times 5 is 60, and half of 60 is going to give us 30. So 30 is our area of the base. So the volume can be calculated by taking area of the base, 30, times 8, and dividing by 3. 3 goes into 30 10 times, and 10 times 8 gives us 80. So the volume is equal to 80 cubic units. All right, so let's take a look at the next one. In the next one, what is the volume of a cubic feet of a square pyramid with base edges 40 and a slant height of 25? So the first thing I would do, if they don't give you the picture, is to sketch it out. They do give us the picture here. But if they didn't, you just need to draw it out. So we have 40 feet as the entire base length, one side of it. Okay, it's a square pyramid, so we know this side is 40 as well. 25 is our slant height, but we need to use our true height. So the first thing we need to do after we write our equation down and identify any variables is we're going to have to find our true height. So the volume is once again 1/3 area of the base times the height. Area of the base, we know is going to be 40 squared, which gives us 1,600. All right, so we got 1,600 as the area of our base. Now we need to find our height. So what we've been given is the slant height. So if I were to take and draw what we're looking at here from the side, once again, we've got a right triangle. Just to emphasize what we're looking at here, we have the height we're looking at here. This right here, distance here, is not 40, it is only half of it. So if this side right here comes out, if you were to draw a line across here, it would look like so. So it cuts, it's only half of this pyramid. So this means this distance would be 20, and therefore we've got our slant height here. So once again, as you set these up, make sure you put everything in the right place. So we have h squared, one of our legs. 20 is our other leg, so that's going to be 20 squared is equal to 25 squared. So 25 squared is going to be 625. Let's double check that real quick. 25 squared, that gives us 625. And now we're going to have h squared plus 400 equals 625. Subtract 400, and h squared is equal to 225. So we take the square root, both sides, and 225 is a perfect square, which means it comes out to be 15. So 15 is our height. So we come up here and mark that in here as our height. It doesn't always come out to be a whole number. Sometimes you'll have to use the radical form and then calculate everything else in your calculator. So now we'll go back to our equation. Volume is equal to 1/3, which we'll do area of the base, which is 1,600, times the true height of 15, and divide by 3. Now since 3 does go into 15 evenly, we can go ahead and simplify that. That's going to be 5. And so now we do 1,600 times 5, and that's going to be 8,000. And this is in feet, so it's in cubic feet. So we have 8,000 cubic feet of volume inside of this pyramid. All right, so let's take a look at the volume of a cone. This formula is going to be 1/3 area of the base, which is pi r squared, times the true height. So once again, using the true height in the volume, and once again we're dividing it by 3. All right, so look at example 4. Find the volume of a cone. Once again, in this cone we were given the true height and we're given the radius. So volume is going to be pi r squared times the height, this is not one to write, over 3, divided by 3, or multiplied by 1/3. So we have to find the radius, which is going to be 1. We have the height, which is 1.7. So volume is equal to 1 squared times 1.7 times pi divided by 3. So we're going to calculate this in terms of pi, and we're also going to round to the nearest tenth. So 1 squared is 1 times 1.7 is 1.7 pi over 3. Now, they may ask you to leave it like this because it's a repeating decimal. And most of the time they will, because they do not want it to be terminating or just simplified. So now this decimal form here is going to be 1.7 times pi divided by 3. So we'll plug that in our calculator. 1.7 times pi, and then I'm going to divide that by 3, and that's going to give me 1.78. So rounded to the nearest tenth is going to be approximately 1.8. So 1.8 units. All right, so I want you to try the next one. So example 5, find the volume of the cone. All right, so let's see how you did. Volume is pi r squared times the height divided by 3. Radius is 5. Height is also 5. What they gave us was the diameter. So given the diameter of 10, we take half of that to get our radius. Now, 5 squared times 5 pi all over 3. That's 25 times 5 pi. That's going to give us 125 pi divided by 3. Leave it in this form here because if you don't, you'll get a repeating decimal. And this gives us approximately 130.9 as our answer rounded to the nearest tenth. So this is in terms of pi. This is to the nearest tenth. All right, so on to our last example. About how many cubic centimeters of water does the paper drinking cup hold? So that means we're going to find the volume. So pause the video, work this one out, come back and check your answer when you're done. All right, so your answer you're going to get is going to be approximately 172 cubic centimeters. Volume is 1/3 pi r squared times the height. Our radius is 4. Our height is going to be square root of 105. Now the way we got that is because they gave us the slant height. We had to find the true height using Pythagorean theorem. So 8 squared plus 4 squared is equal to 11 squared. 4 squared is 16, 11 squared is 121. Subtract the 16 to get 105, and h is equal to the square root of 105. Now, as we come up here, plug this back in up here, we're going to get 4 squared, which is going to be 16 times the square root of 105 times pi divided by 3. So the question here asks us to round. So how many cubic centimeters? That means we're rounding to the nearest whole number here. So in our calculator, we'll take and we'll input these numbers here. So 16 square root 105. Whoops. Let's clear that again. 16, and we'll hit square root. We'll get the 105. Now, if you're going to put pi in this right here, or you can hit enter and then times pi, just make sure you hit over once here to get it outside the radical. And then we're going to put the pi symbol so that it's outside. So pi is outside the radical now. So 16 times the square root of 105 pi equals, and now we're going to divide this by 3. And that gives us 171.68. So this is going to round to approximately 172 cubic centimeters. All right, so this concludes our lesson on volume of pyramids and cones. If you missed anything, make sure you rewatch it or go back and rewind and fast forward through the parts that you need.